What if, after we die, there would be definitely an afterlife, but only in hell? One of those too many things in our lives, that we can't do anything about, and we don't have any other choice except for taking it. Let's say, just another little unfair fact about our pitiful existence. Like, there is this very fucked up God, actually a lot more fucked up than how he's portrayed in the religions. And he has betrayed everyone, including his prophets. Did I tell you that if you do this and you do that, you're gonna go to heaven? Well, there is no heaven. I just wanted to fuck with you. Now, burn in hell, my stupid, ugly creatures. And I'm gonna watch you burn and jerk my divine dick off. And you must know that there is absolutely no hope to be rescued from hell. Because hell is forever. There is no end to it, and you can't stop it. And there's no hope for change, There's no such thing as a better future for our children in hell. Which means you won't be able to, vote for somebody to make hell a better place to live. And there won't be any revolution or protest against God, fighting for your rights as a civil in hell, with things written on the cardboards like, "Stop torturing innocent people! You promised us heaven!" Or written here on the t-shirt, "Say no to fire." No, there won't be any hope. So according to this theory, let me tell you that however shitty your life is, you better keep staying alive. Because things are very fucked up in hell. Well, to be honest, I'm not that paranoid or worried about it. Because it's nothing to do with me. I mean, if there's also heaven after life, still I would be down in hell for sure. So it doesn't make any difference for me. In fact, it's only a thought. A random thought. One of those thoughts in your head that, that comes to your mind when you're trying to go to sleep, and it doesn't let you sleep. Or when you're driving in your car and you're stuck in a terrible traffic jam. Or when you sat on a bench in front of a cafe, waiting for your hot chocolate to get ready. And you're thinking about all this heaven and hell shit in your head, but meanwhile, you're looking at someone else's dick. It happens to me quite often, that I'm somewhere in the public, and I'm in my own thoughts, looking at someone's dick. Just a random guy moving around, with no gay intention, just looking. In fact, I don't even know that I'm looking at a dick. Well, and what happens usually is that when I realize, I've been doing this, then I try to look sneakily to see if he's aware of me watching his dick or not. And he always is. He looks at me, and I just can't explain the whole thing to him. I got to let him suppose that yes, I suck dick. Ooh, I'm so dirty! First comes God having a jerk off, and now I suck dick. And who knows what's gonna be the next topic? Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that this show is full of dicks. Full of dicks, sperm, and blood. How exciting, isn't it? Well, to be exact, in this show, you're gonna hear the word dick 32 times. But vagina, only twice. So I'm so sorry, my dear feminist friends. And there's also suck 8 times, jerk off 9 times, come or coming 8 times, and finally fuck. And when I say fuck, I mean fuck, fucking, motherfucker, all these, words related to fuck. 82 times, which is 1.17 fuck per minute. That's a lot of fuck. And there are some also other words like kill 13 times, dead, die, or dying 42 times, suicide 4 times, and Obama 6 times. unfortunately, there's no Trump in this show. Except this one that I just said, so it's only one. Because I just don't want to talk about him. It's too easy to make fun of him. It's like joking about religion, you know, you just point at it and everybody laughs. You don't need to be creative. So, no Trump in this show. Oops! I just said it again! So please make it 2. Well, this was an overview of my show, and I hope you enjoyed this show. And let me tell you that I'm so happy to be here, you know, being able to perform my first stand-up comedy show in English language. This was something that actually I've been imagining pretty much for every single night for the last year, the last 2 years. And I'm so happy that it finally happened. But generally, I'm not that much of a happy person. Well, you might say that, yes, exactly, this is what a real comedian should be. Someone who's sad but wants to make others happy. But no, this is not who I am. I am sad, and I would like to make you fucking sad too. Happiness is just a transient feeling for me. Like, I'm happy when I'm playing football, or any other game of my choice, or when I hate watching movies and TV shows with a lovely friend of mine. But I feel sad most of the times. And I don't understand all these people who are always happy, always. In every fucking photo they look like, yeah, look at me, I'm so happy. All these people that if you ask them, how are you? They say, great. Really? You feel just great? I mean, not even good or not bad? Don't you have any issues with your life at all? Everything's fine? Nothing to worry about? Have you done your blood test lately? How's the level of sugar in your blood? No high cholesterol? You know, does your kidney work well? Any possible diseases? Anything at all? Have you done anything you should blame yourself for instead of being great? Don't you love someone and they don't love you back? Are you happy with the shape of your body? With the size of your dick? Or your boobs? Don't you wish you weren't fat? Don't you feel lonely? Isn't it sad? What about your mother? Is she alright? Is she still alive? Do you know that she's going to die? Probably soon. Well, unfortunately, I know. How old is she? 68? And how long do you think a normal human being would stay alive? Probably for another 10 years, but in pain and under lots of medication. And if she's already dead now, don't you miss her? The same with your father, and all your family members, and all your friends, and even your little lovely cats. Well, yeah, this is how fucked up this life is. Even little, cute, lovely, precious kittens would die! In pain. Not to mention your fucking self, who is going to die too. Don't you give a shit? Well, there should be at least something to reduce your happiness somehow. I don't want you to cry. I'm talking about just a little touch of sadness. I mean, I don't understand this attitude of don't worry, be happy. You know, it's meaningless to me. Especially the second part, be happy. Because being happy is not a decision. It's a feeling. Something that you feel at the moment. It's actually something chemical happening on your brain that somehow you feel fucking happy. And if you don't feel happy, that's it. You're not happy. So why don't you just shove it up in your ass and take it? I mean, you can't pretend to be happy because that's dishonest. And dishonest is rude. And I'm not saying that be worried and be sad, you know, in the opposite of don't worry, be happy. No. I'm saying, I hope you feel happy. But if you don't worry. Because that's life. That's normal. Remember that you always have the choice to end being sad. The game of life is hard to play. I'm gonna lose it anyway. The losing card die someday late. So this is all I have to say. That suicide is painless. It brings on many changes. And I can take or leave it if I please. And please don't get me wrong, I love happiness. And I try so hard to make myself happy. In fact, that's why I'm forced to have fun all the time. There's no other choice for me. Either I'm having fun or it's shit. For example, I'm busy playing my favorite card game, Shalem, with 3 of my friends. Having a great time. And just after the game finishes, I would go to the toilet to take a piss. Then I see my face in the mirror, saying to myself, how many suicide letters should I write? One for everybody? Or one for my family and one for everybody? Or shall I write one to my parents and one separately to my sister? And one to the rest of the world? Or what about my friends? Do I have to write them separately too? Because I just got things to say. I don't want to just die before being heard. In fact, that's why I'm doing this show right now. And the main, important message that I would like to announce to the world is, fuck you. Sorry, when I say fuck you, I don't mean not, you, all the people in the world. I mean, most of you. And it's not an aggressive kind of fuck you, it's not like, fuck you. It's more like a peaceful, I don't give a shit type of fuck you. It's a non-violent kind of hate. It means that I don't kill people because I hate them. You want to say why? Well, simply because I'm not a killer. And I've got some reasons for not being a killer. First of all, it's illegal. The police would easily arrest me. Because I'm not that much of a, clever guy to kill someone and be able to wipe off all the trails that gets the cops to find me. And in this country, the punishment for murderers, is hanging by the neck. And that's something I clearly wouldn't want to happen to me. Secondly, I think in order to be a killer, you must have something special inside you. And I think I don't have that special thing inside. If I kill someone, man, that's a big thing. I'm sure the image of the incident would be in my head all the time. And it's gonna make it even harder for me to go to sleep. But there are some types of people that I wish I could kill. Or let's say, I don't become sad if they die. Well, there are many types of them, but I'm not gonna mention any because I don't want any of the people in this room to leave. In fact, the only type that I'm going to talk about, just for the sake of this show, is those people who doesn't have any organization or campaign, fighting for their rights or supporting them. So it's easier for me to be brutal against them. And I'm sure there's no such person here in this crowd to get offended by what I'm about to say. I'm talking about those strong, aggressive, masculine men who are always looking for a fight. Making heavy eye contact with random people on the street. What's up? You looking at me? Do you feel itchy? Like those who kill cats with rock on the street. Just to have fun, The last time I saw one of these douchebags was a few months ago, where I was, playing ping pong with some of my friends in a park. And there was a guy in that park who was behaving very aggressive. And I was sure he's looking for a fight. I was sure he's, trying to do something to make me say something so he could have a reason to punch me in the face. But I didn't say anything, and I just left that place. While in my head, I was imagining too many bad things about him. I imagined telling him that if someday I find you dying on the streets, bleeding hard, I don't know, maybe some other motherfucker like you stabbed you with a knife in a fight and ran away. Now, if I see you in that situation, on the ground, soaking in your own blood, and you ask for help, I wouldn't help. I would then make an emergency phone call to call the ambulance and stuff. I wouldn't look at his eyes and laugh or kick him on his wounds or piss on him or spit on his face. I wouldn't do nothing. I just stand there and make sure he dies. I hope he dies fast. Who knows? I might sing a little lullaby to him. Something like, hush little baby, don't you cry. Let me tell I hate you before you die. Or, I just wanna see that you fucking die. Maybe I'm being too harsh on him. I don't know. Actually, I met him in my dreams a few nights ago, last week. I didn't actually meet him in the dream, but I remember in the dream I was checking my emails, and one of my emails was from this guy, and inside the email he apologized, for being too aggressive, and he said he's so sorry. So nice of him indeed. So when I woke up, I thought to myself that maybe I should delete this part of my show, but I didn't. So you just bear in mind that what I'm talking about, what I'm saying about him, is written before I read his apology in the dream. But in reality, he was such a motherfucker. And I'm very tired of these tough guys who just want to beat the shit of somebody, with no rational reason. Just in order to feel powerful themselves. And anytime I see any of these fuckers, I want to let them know that I hope you die in a terrorist attack. I hope there will be no more terrorist attack anywhere else in the world. But if it happens again, I hope this guy is one of the victims. By mistake. Because actually, these kind of guys could be one of those terrorists themselves. And now he's accidentally killed by his friends. Before they find out that one of the victims was actually a huge potential terrorist. It's very scary these days, with this ISIS thing, this brutal terrorist attack happening all around the world. And I think this situation is more scary to paranoid people like me. Because anywhere, in any situation, you have to be aware that someone here might be from ISIS. So, you should calculate all the different ways to escape before the attack happens. Well, I hope you don't see paranoia as a mental illness, because I think it's not. I think it's normal. I think if someone doesn't have any signs of paranoia, is mentally ill. How's that? Well, they're either mentally ill or stupid. And that's what I think. And, of course, if your paranoia is too much that you can't control it anymore, you could be considered mentally ill too. But it's okay if your paranoia is reasonable. For example, if you sat on a bus and next to you is a little old lady, obviously you have to be prepared. Because anytime she might transform into a frightening witch. So you should be ready to react to it quickly. To quickly kick her in the chest and leave the bus. To quickly kick her in the chest and leave the bus. To quickly kick her in the chest and leave the bus. To quickly kick her in the chest and leave the bus. Before she starts the transformation. And then the other people in the bus who weren't paranoid enough have to deal with her. I hope they know that there would be no way to be rescued except for setting her on fire. Because the witch must burn. That's a fact. Well, I'm just exaggerating my paranoia a little bit. I'm not that really scared of a little old lady. I'm sure that 99.9999999999999% she wouldn't transform into a witch. But maybe. Just maybe. Like the hell thing that I've mentioned at the beginning of my show. One of those waves. Just a tiny cute touch of paranoia. For fun. So, another shameful thing about me that I want to talk about in this show is that actually sometimes I get very very excited when I hear people die. Oh. Well, precisely when it's done by a natural disaster. Amazing. People die in the anger of nature. How exciting, isn't it? Or no? Or you want to say, oh yeah, what if it happens to you and your family and friends? Wouldn't this seem so amazing? No, of course not. I don't want anything bad happening to me, my family, and anyone I love. No, I don't want any of them dead, sad, or diseased. In fact, I wish I could live so young and happy forever and ever till the end of time. But this ain't gonna happen. So, fuck you, God, or nature, or science, or a matter of chance, or I don't know who to blame. But my question is, why was I born and was given the responsibility of not to fuck up in my life, knowing that I die at the end? Whose idea is this? This is crazy. And who to blame? Maybe the letter D, which somehow make the fucking N and then the motherfucking A to create DNA, asking to themselves, why not making a living creature? Then we can see how long it takes till it dies. I think they're the one I could blame. Or maybe something else is guilty. I don't know. The fucking Big Bang? The hydrogen atom? The nitrogen? Or both? Or I don't know, something with too much density? I don't know, I'm not good at science. But it seems that once there was this little tiny thing that one day, for whatever reason, couldn't tolerate the silence of the nothingness anymore. So he just got bored and stood up, saying to himself, oh fuck it, I just can't take it anymore. Then it exploded and splashed all over this universe like and made the existence. And suddenly, I'm here. And look at me. I'm 30 years old, I'm ugly, I'm weak, I'm getting fat. I don't have a job yet. I have a noise in my head for 2 years. I'm afraid to sleep alone at night. And I have to try so hard to be successful in my career in order to get satisfied. And then die at the end. Maybe soon. And it takes long years until you hopefully understand that most of the things that you've been told as a kid was just bullshit. Not to mention, God, heaven and hell and all those afterlife crap. But just simple things. Like east and west. Like right and left. Like these kind of things that are like a contract between people. That from now on this is right and this is left. Well, fuck you. Why not this is right and this is left? Because if you think more, this is just this way. Doesn't have a name. This is as much left as it could be right. Because the earth is round, So if you go that way, and if you don't stop going that way, basically you're gonna go and go and go and go and go and go. And then you're gonna go around the earth, then you will be exactly here again. At this very spot, which is called here. And this here would be also there. For me it's here, for you it's there. For example, this microphone. If I look for this microphone, so where's the microphone? Ah, the microphone is here. But if you look for the microphone, where's the microphone? Ah, the microphone is there. So for me it's here, for you it's there. Which means my here is your there, and your here is my there. But we have a common there as well. For example, there in the distance, there for all of us. But if one of you go there, then there is no longer there for them anymore. It's here, and then once it's still there. It looks a bit complicated, I know, but it's simple. What I'm saying is, every here is a there. Every up is a down. Every left is a right. And every right is a wrong. Mr. Einstein, what did you just say? You're such a poet. You're a poet, a philosopher, and a comedian. Ah, Just like a prophet. I mean, every left is a right and every right is wrong. Are you crazy? This is great. So, I'm obviously a deep person. You know, talking about all these kind of things, or what is here, or what's there, or what's the meaning of life, Mr. Harrison. You're the greatest philosopher of the new century. Oh, well. So, this is life. Life sometimes can be hard, and sometimes too easy, and sometimes there's no meaning. But of course life has a meaning, because the meaning is there, the meaning is in your head. You want to look for the meaning of life, but there's too many theories in their existence. There are so many Nietzsche's and all the cosmology and the ontology, and all the theory of frozen, and am I right? Is this kind of thing? Is this life empty? No, what else is empty? It's empty, but a big glass of water is not empty because it's filled with water, but it's drink water. Nietzsche says, you know, to live is to suffer, and to survive is to find suffering. You think, don't kill me, no, but all this kind of thing, you think about it and say, oh man, I got it now, and what was it? What was this? No, well. I can guess most of you ladies are getting wet now. Because I'm being intelligent. You know, in fact, very intelligent. Talking about all these philosophical things, what is this, and what is that, and you know, these kind of things that who would be able to talk about them, except me. So watch me. Watch me being intelligent and jerk off. If you want. Because they say intelligence is sexy. And I think I'm being very sexy right now. I don't understand why they say intelligence is sexy. Because to me, only sexy is sexy. Intelligence is nice, or interesting, or respectful. And you know, the funny thing is when you see somebody post it on Facebook or Instagram, you know, this is slogan, intelligence is sexy. There's always an image attached to it, which is a painting of a woman, you know, holding a brain and holding a brain. She's holding a greasy yellow brain in her hand, which looks like a pair of balls with a skin disease. And the caption is, intelligence is sexy. Like how? Like, 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. God is dead. I think, therefore, I am. It's practically nonsense. I think it's just hiding your horniness behind something appropriate. You know, if you need a reason to feel sexy or horny with yourself, yeah, everything can be sexy. Of course, intelligence is sexy. Also, indifference is sexy. Also, independence is sexy. Incoherence is sexy. Indulgence is sexy. Influence is sexy. Or indolence is sexy. Everything is sexy. I mean, honestly, would you ever want to fuck Stephen Hawking? Would you even give a little lap dance on his tiny crooked dick? With his pants on? I don't think so. Because I think his intelligence is not sexy to you. Because I think this slogan is all fake. It's not true. I think it's more like we just want to fuck everybody. All the sexy ones. And all the ones who are not that sexy, but more interesting. Basically, anyone except the dumb, fat fuck. So, what's the meaning of life? I don't know. Did I ask for a meaning? And there's no one to blame. Just a fake transition to get back to what I was talking about earlier, you know. Yeah, who's responsible for this shit? So, who to blame? Who's responsible for this shit? Maybe monkeys. Or I don't know, apes. I just found out that in English they're different. But to me, they're the same. But these fucking apes that thousands of years ago decided to take it to the next level of survival. The evolution. Monkeys wanted to be the king. to dominate the jungles, and then the mountains, and then the deserts, and why not making a ship conquer the oceans as well? I think they're the one I could blame. Because if you look at apes, they're spooky. You can see something's wrong with them, you know, something evil. In fact, looking at apes, you realize there's no surprise that humans are so fucked up. Have you ever seen the video of some monkeys trying to record an unrated kitten? It's on YouTube, you can watch it after this show. It's horrifying. Some people find it funny, but it's not. It's 3 of them monkeys, you know, and they chase the kitten like this all the way in the alley, like humans would do. And then one by one, you know, they grab the kitten's tail and try to finger her. You fucking apes! Can't you see that she's only a small kitten? How cruel could you be? And why are you doing this? Just because you feel horny? So why don't you just go back home and fuck your fucking ape wives? Or girlfriends, or ape sex partners, or ape hookers, or ape friends with benefits, or some fucking ape who would just do this willingly. Not really, I got very pissed off by them. I thought they should have been punished somehow. Maybe putting them in jail would be a good idea. I mean, I hate the zoo, but I think for these kind of apes, it's a great place to be. As a jail. No, I think the zoo is too soft for them. I mean, exactly a prison cell. Each one separately in a different cell, and each one will be kept together with a horny donkey. Well, let's see. Let's see if the monkey raped the donkey or the donkey raped the monkey. You know my son, rape is just not funny. This was an actual feedback from someone that I asked to read my script. Then she mentioned this part of my show and said, first of all, rape is just not funny. Oh, that's weird. Because I thought it is. What kind of a person I am. She acted like I don't know what the fuck actually rape is, or I don't give a shit about. Who the fuck do you think I am? The king of Saudi Arabia? Like all my life I was wrong and I was hell sure that rape is funny. Like, if I would see some motherfucker in the corner of the street, you know, grabbing a girl's throat and trying to rape her brutally, I would go like, ah, that's so funny. And I go on high five with the guy, man, you're very funny. And now, it's clear in my mind. Rape is just not funny. Thank you for making me a better person. It means a lot to me. Now I hope what I just said before doesn't offend any apes. I hope they can handle a joke. By the way, I was only talking about those specific criminal apes, not all of them. I mean, I don't hate apes. In fact, I hate them when they remind me of myself, the human. But I love, you know, animals in general, but as you can see. Well, actually, I don't know what's an animal and what's not. Like, to me, insects are not animals. They're insects. And I find it so hard to even like them. I mean, I would love those colorful, mysterious ones, but just a plain bug, I don't give a shit. In fact, I hate most of them. Specifically, the cockroaches. Oh man, I hate them a lot. Even more than always happy people. But less than ISIS and cancer. I hate them a lot. You know what's so annoying to me? That anytime that I'm talking about my hatred towards cockroaches, there's always someone who says, but didn't you know that the cockroaches are the only species who would survive a nuclear bomb? Oh yeah? So fuck them even more. I die and those creepy creatures survive and feed on my rotting body? Let's kill them all before this happens. This is something I imagined once. That I'm buried under the rubble after an earthquake. And unfortunately, I didn't die. But I'm in the dying process. While still alive, the cockroaches are feeding on my wounds. I know, it's disgusting. This is not something that I would usually daydream about. I mean, I would also imagine running around in meadows under the beautiful sunlight with unicorns around me. But it's less possible to happen. Instead, being buried under the ruins is more realistic. But we hope it never happens. We hope that we die in peace on our bed while all the family and friends are around, telling you how much they love you and how much they will miss you if you die. But you might fucking die in an earthquake too. This is a story I once heard. An earthquake happened somewhere, and there was a woman buried alive. After days, or I don't know, after a while, a man passed the ruins that this woman is buried under. He noticed the woman, but instead of helping her, bringing her out or anything, he stole her golden wristband and her ring, and he left. They say this happened. Now, I don't believe it. But it's not a surprise for me if, somebody did that. I'm sure that these kind of motherfuckers exist. I wouldn't be surprised even if you also jerked off on her face and left. Unfortunately, these kind of motherfuckers also exist. Now, if you think that what I just said is offensive because, the person who's been humiliated is a woman, you can imagine this story with a man. Doesn't make any difference. That's a person, and I think that's cruel enough. But in my imagination, I imagined it with a woman in her mid-40s or early 50s, prayed to God her entire life, a religious housewife to be exact. And now in this situation, buried alive, he's begging God, praying to God that God, please help me. And then after a while, she can see a man coming towards her. She smiles and says, "Thank you, God. I knew you wouldn't let me die like this." And the man comes. But instead of helping her, he starts to steal her jewelry, meanwhile unzipping his pants, bringing his dick out, jerk off on her face. And the woman is, begging God that please God, at least don't let him come. But God doesn't help. And the very fucked up man comes on the poor woman's face. But the woman, instead of being ingratitude or disgraceful against God, blaming him for not helping her, she thinks to herself that maybe this was just God's last test. Check her out to see how faithful she is. And now the test is done, and she's going to heaven to have fun forever. Oh, I love heaven. Heaven above, baby. Now, if it was me instead of her, in that situation, buried alive, with a man trying to steal my belongings instead of helping me, I would tell him to steal whatever you want. But please don't forget to kill me afterwards. With a piece of brick. Just pick up a brick, try to hit me hard in the head, right in my temples to be exact. Do it once, and if I was still alive, do the second time, harder. And just to be sure, do it even harder for the third time. It doesn't take much of your precious time. I think 40 minutes is more than enough to do this. I'm sure that I would be dead by the third hit, because I'm not that much of a strong guy. I would be even dead by the first hit. But just to be sure, you can also jerk off on my face while doing that. If it satisfies your sexual fetish, coming on a dying man's face, I don't mind. Well, let's hope that I'll be gone by the time he comes. Otherwise, these fucking cockroaches would be fed by my flesh. Not only cockroaches, but flies too. Oh, they're fucking disgusting, these filthy insects. I just don't know why in English they call him a fly. Really? A fly? Is that what really represents those fucking creeps? I mean, think about that sacred concept of flying. Humankind's wish. What about an eagle? Don't you think it's more of a fly than a fucking fly? I think that's a mistake in the English language. Flies are not a fly. to me, they're more like a fuck. Or a noisy fuck, that's what they are. Or, I don't know, ugly or psycho. Of course they're psychos. If not, can you tell me what it is? This? It's not psycho? And they're also creepy. And they're so fast, you know, with them too many motherfucking eyes that are watching everywhere around. Once I was tripping on acid, on the top of a hill, you know, lying on my back, watching the sky, with a beautiful eagle, you know, flying over me in the distance. Listening to some baroque music, you know, everything was so epic to me, with an open mouth like you totally wondered. And in the middle of this holy moment, a big fucking fly came and was flying above my head, you know. So fucking much closer to me than the eagle. And its noise was too loud, I couldn't even hear it with the music in my headphones. And it, you know, even made me close my mouth because I was afraid that it might go inside. Totally ruined that holy moment. Then I realized that I'm on acid. Then I tried to, you know, get some good vibes from it, you know. Think about that it's a living creature after all, and it might have some hidden aspects that I've never noticed before. But I couldn't. All I was seeing was a disgusting creature in front of me that doesn't let me enjoy my trip. Then I thought to myself that maybe, somehow, he figured out that I was appreciating that eagle somehow. So now he became jealous, and now he's trying to grab my attention. You know, I was sure that he could consider himself as an eagle, compared with those little bugs on the grasses. Ooh, look, I'm an eagle! No, you're not. You're a noisy, creepy, ugly, motherfucking psycho fuck. What? A noisy, creepy, ugly, motherfucking psycho fuck. Not even a fly, my friend. I miss tripping on acid a lot. But I know I can't do it anymore, so I quit. Because the last time I did it, it didn't go well. Well, this is what happened to me. Like always, I was in front of the mountain, you know, looking at the mountain, tripping my balls off, experiencing the best feeling ever. Then for a moment I realized that I was getting worried. I couldn't find the source, but I was sure that I'm really worried. Then the smile on my face faded away, and I couldn't enjoy what I was seeing anymore. You know, I couldn't find that enjoy feeling. That mountain was no longer beautiful to me, and neither other things. You know, the concept of beauty was lost for me, and I was losing everything. What I am, who I am. I felt I'm all alone on my own. And all the world, you know, including those friends that were with me on the trip, were just an illusion that someone made it up for me. Like a visual artist had designed a fake universe, and nothing exists on it except for me. And I felt loneliness, you know, I couldn't find any way to escape this loneliness. I wanted to explode from inside. Not in a brutal way like a suicide bomber, but more like fireworks exploding in the night sky. And the only practical way I came up with to escape this loneliness was that someone had to come inside my head to think my thoughts with me, or even think them instead of me, if that makes sense. Because I felt the loneliness inside my fucking head. And it was sad. Harsh. In fact, so harsh, baby. I felt like it shut me down, bang, bang. I hit the ground, bang, bang. That awful sound, bang, bang. My baby shut me down. Called Stand Up Misery. So welcome to my show. What do you mean? You mean it's not a comedy anymore? But you're supposed to make everything funny, Mr. Comedian. Oh yeah? So, fuck funny. Let's be sad. No, of course not. This is a comedy show, let's be happy. Let's talk about something happy. Instead of being so dark and miserable, let's talk about something to cheer you up. Something full of hope. Something innocent. Something soft. With no harm, like a pair of boobs. Now, I always found boobs so friendly. In the opposite of vagina, which has always been so spooky to me. Mysterious and spooky, like a David Lynch movie. But instead, boobs are sincere to me, and I find them truthful. And they're easier to understand, to get involved with, to get along with. However, there is still mysterious and questionable to me. For example, I don't have any idea about boobs' pleasure system. I mean, when I'm touching one boob, I always feel guilty about the other one. What if I, upset the other boob? What if I make her jealous? Do I have to touch them equally? I mean, does it really make any difference which boob you choose to play with? Or when you play with both at the same time, is the pleasure exactly twice bigger than, when you play with only one? Or maybe not. Maybe they maintain a 60 to 40 ratio. I don't know. Perhaps some women are left boob, while the others are right. I don't know. And I think I would never get to the answer of this question in my life. Because unfortunately, I just wouldn't find a girl's answer convincing. I would rather have a tit answer my question in person. Well, not just one tit because it's not fair, I would love to talk to both for the sake of a sound judgment. Just like a couple therapy session, I can sit behind my desk and I can have them both in front of me on the couch and they share their feelings in turn. But alas! Boobs don't talk. Maybe in the judgment day. Because in the religion I was brought up with, they say that your body parts will speak on the judgment day. Like a witness, testify against you. So, I think that's the only place that I can have a bit of a chance to actually listen to a tit confess. I don't know. I always liked it more when they played with the other ones. I mean, it made me a lot more horny to just be able to sit here and watch, But I think, unfortunately, I won't be allowed in the women's confessing room on the judgment day. Instead, I would be in another room with all men dicks confessing. And I'm sure I'm not gonna be bothered listening to some old man's dick confessing about how he raped a child. While in that situation, in the divine courtroom, I'm holding my own dick, being proud of never raping a child. I'm waiting for my dick's turn to begin. But before that, I'm talking to my dick in my head, saying, "Hey buddy, we've been friends for many years now. Good friends indeed. Well, at least I've been trying to be your best friend. So now I think it's your time to show me a sign of our friendship, like I did to you. So now, in this very historic moment, I want you to be quiet. Don't say a word. Because, we're going to hell anyway. Even if we pass this big test, me and you are going to burn in hell forever. So don't say a word. And if they really insist that you have to confess, tell them to fuck off. Then if you do that, as a gift, I'll stroke you for the last time. And then you come in glory. In front of the Lord on the face of an angel who just loves cock. Oh, angels, angels, please don't be mad at me. This is only a comedy show. Now, speaking of my dick, once I was, wandering around the porn website trying to find something to jerk off with. Something popped up, one of those sexy advertisements. It was a GIF. And inside this GIF, there was this well-fit young lady, bending on her knees, begging me to fuck her. She was going like this. Please fuck me. With no voice, obviously, because it was a GIF. But you could easily live it. Really? Are you actually begging me to fuck you? Do you know me at all? I mean, I would love to have, but first of all, there would be some visa issues. Because you're probably European, obviously because of your blonde hair and white skin, so I don't think I can make it happen. Let me tell you that the university in England invited me to perform my show, actually this one that I'm doing right now. They sent me a proper invitation letter and they also funded me. But still, the British fucking government didn't give me a visa. Now, if you send an invitation letter saying that I would like to fuck this guy, I'm sure I'm not gonna make it happen. I just don't understand how come a sexy blonde woman is begging people to fuck her. You don't need to beg anybody, baby. Unless you have this very specific fetish of begging. Make more sense. But as a well-fit, beautiful young girl, you can just open the door of the house, stand by the door frame, put your boobs out, and make eye contact with random people on the street. Then you see how easily you get it. You don't need to beg for it. In fact, you don't even need to show your boobs, you don't need to do anything at all. Just go somewhere with some men around and just be there for, let's say, 12 minutes. You don't need to do, anything special. Just being is enough. And I'm sure someone will take you home. You don't need to ask for it. Because women, they don't need to ask for sex. I'm not saying that this is an accurate statement. It is what it is. They don't need to ask for it. Because they got the power. This thing that some people talk about, girl power. I'm sure we've heard of it before. Now, I really want to know, what exactly is this girl power? Is it a special kind of power that is only in the body and the mind of a woman? And a man would never find out about it, even if they try so hard? Is there any boy power too, in order to be equal? I think if there's something, such as boy power, that would be the power of corruption. And by saying girl power, they probably mean this ability of, I will intentionally make you horny, but you're not allowed to fuck me. Like these booty shaker celebrities, like Beyonce. That they're totally being a whore on the stage, shaking their round asses, in the camera, in front of the camera, looking at the camera, which represent the viewer's eyes, and being a whore. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with being a whore. But the only thing that bothers me is when I realize that Beyonce has got a husband. It's weird. You make everyone horny, and only your fucking husband can reach that round ass? This is unfair. Making my dick hard and leave? This is not a power. This is rape. Well, a form of rape. I mean, if I see that type of women in my life, I expect them to suck my dick. Well, not my personal dick, I just, mentioned mine as an example. I expect them to suck any dick of their interest, but please just not one dick. And I'm not saying that they have to suck dick, I mean, I don't force them to do it. In fact, it's only the expectation. Like, if you're a pilot, I expect you to drive the plane, and if you're a cocksucker, I expect you to suck dick. You know what would be so exciting to me? That one day Beyonce announcing, on her Instagram account openly that she has joined ISIS for sexual jihad al-nikah. Thing I want to talk about in this show is about a 6-year-old called Alex. Alex is a 6-year-old kid from the United States. He wrote a letter to Obama about Omran. And who is Omran? This is Omran. I'm sure you've seen this picture before. This picture is taken, over the last year or last 2 years after an airstrike on You alright?
I'm fine.
This picture is taken after an airstrike on Aleppo in Syria. So, 6-year-old called Alex wrote a letter to Obama about Omran, the Syrian kid, saying that, "Dear President Obama, please bring Omran over to the United States to our house, and we will give him a family, and we will love him, and I will share my toys with him, and we will teach him English, just like we taught my friend Otto from Japan." How interesting, isn't it, Omran? I mean, of course you lost all your family and friends, in the war in front of your eyes, and that's sad, but hey, you can learn English. And what's more beautiful than knowing the English language, my dear Omran? A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P. That smells like heaven. First of all, I don't think a 6-year-old would write a letter to Mr. Obama on his own. I think there's definitely a parent involved with an evil intention, the fucking fame. I think this story is more like Alex is, in the backyard and he's busy playing dead with his friends with their toy guns, the ones that I hope he would never share with Omran because that would be so traumatic to him. Meanwhile, his mom is in the living room pretending that she's a 6-year-old Alex and writing the letter to Obama with the handwriting of the kid. And this story doesn't impress me. If this is supposed to impress me, there has to be this very intelligent and depressed 6-year-old called Alex, with too many questions on his very young mind, about God, the existence, and the universe. Very intelligent for a 6-year-old indeed. And one day, when mom and dad are not home, he turns on the TV, watches this, Syrian kid on the telly program, very impressed by what he's watching. So he thinks to himself that he should truly react to this. So he brings a pen and a paper, and he starts writing a letter, not to fucking Obama, but to his parents. Dear mommy and daddy, by the time you read this, I will be dead. Because I just don't want to live in this bad, bad world where kids like Omran have to suffer in their lives. I don't want to see or hear any of this news anymore in my life. So I'm asking you, now that I'm dead, please bring Omran here to the United States to our house and tell him that he will be your new son and my sister's new brother. And please love him as much as you love me. And please give him my room and every toy you ever bought me. I wish you do what I said in this letter. I love you, Alex. And then he would kill himself somehow. I don't know, I don't want to imagine how he would do it. Because I could imagine it like it could be easily done, you know, with an intentional car accident. Or his father's revolver, hidden in the drawer, because this is fucking America, you know? But I want to imagine this story like this. He writes a letter, then he puts it on the table in the kitchen. Then he goes back, you know, to the backyard, sits on the swing, closes his eyes while the sun is shining on his closed eye, and he starts to swing softly. Then, somehow, he would die in peace. Now, this story would deeply impress me. And I would love to have a photograph of this moment, you know, the picture of his lovely, innocent, dead face on the swing. And I would put this picture as a background photo of my mobile phone, instead of the picture of the great Dennis Bergkamp. Have a good night. Thanks.
Hej.
Could you pass my...